And the automatic reaction from both sides, but that I've experienced from the left, is forget about his idea. Let's just start smearing him as some sort of immoral, morally deficient person, as opposed to let's debate the idea. If you're for tax cuts, you're for rich people. You don't care about the poor people. If you're for limited government, you don't care about the less fortunate. Those are absurd absolutes that we're presented with time and time again. But you can't have an honest policy debate with people if you don't tell you what their principles are. And that's one of the fundamental problems in American politics. It's no longer about solving problems. It's simply about winning elections, which is important. But that can't be the end of it, because politics is not a sport. This is not college football, where you paint your face a certain color and you play for 3 hours and everybody goes home and plays again next year. These things have consequences, and the consequences are real. The consequences are that the single greatest economy, the single greatest civilization in human history, is at a very significant crossroads that requires us to stand up and act. But those folks around America, they have no voice to that frustration. And even both political parties have failed to provide it to them consistently. Time and time again, they voted for folks that say they stand for their principles, I even call themselves conservatives, and then when they get there, they govern totally different. And they're left perplexed. There was a time when Americans decided, well, maybe politics, we can just ignore it. Let's just stay out of it. At the end of the day, what happens in my life really doesn't affect what's happening. What happens in Washington doesn't directly affect my life, but now it will. Now it's starting to on an increasing rate. And that's what we need to do. Our mission is to begin to explain to the people of this country what they already understand instinctively. And that is that what's happening now is fundamentally altering what our future will be about. Perhaps not to the extremes that some of the rhetoric leads to, but no less real. This stimulus package wasn't just a bad idea. It was an expensive one that we're going to have to pay for. That money will run out next year, and then the bill will come. You have to pay for it. Who will pay for it? Your children and your grandchildren. That cap and trade legislation, which will do nothing other than make America one of the cleanest third world economies in the planet. Someone will have to pay the bill for it. You know who it will be? Your children and grandchildren. Eventually, when the government continues to pick the winners and losers in our economy, you know who the loser is going to be? Your children and grandchildren. They will pay the price. What is being done to them has never been done to any generation of American before them. And it is wrong, it is immoral, that this generation of leadership is simply willing to pass on tomorrow's problems, today's problems, to tomorrow's generations. We are the voice of that movement. The vast majority of the American people understand these things instinctively, and what they are going to increasingly look for are voices in American politics that reflect it in a genuine and authentic way. Now, if you're a Republican, I would assume you all are. The Republican Party is the natural home for that movement. I never thought in my life, I have been involved in Republican Party politics since 1991 as an intern in a congressional office. I ran Bob Dole's campaign in South Florida in 1996. In my 9 years in the Florida House, I served as Majority Whip, Republican Majority Whip, Republican Majority Leader, and Republican Speaker of the Florida House. I never in my life imagined that I would have to run an insurgent campaign as a conservative. I never in my life thought conservatives would become insurgents in the Republican Party. The Republican Party is the natural home for this movement. But it is not the inevitable home for this movement. And that's the message to my fellow Republicans. It is the natural home for it. It is the logical home for it. And it can't be the voice for this movement. But it can't just be in a vehicle by which you raise money to win elections.
Amen.
It's got to be the home for specific ideas that lead to solutions. A clear understanding of what the role of government is in America. A clear understanding of the implications of when you get away from constitutional conservatism. What does that mean to the future of your country? It's not simple ideology. This is not some litmus test list that I carry in my pocket. These are tried and true principles, and everywhere in America that they've been tried have functioned. And everywhere in the world they've been tried have functioned. And they will work again. But we have to be the voice to make that work. And that requires us to win races. To win races in places like Texas and like Florida. I'll close by telling you that when I was discouraged from running in this race by leaders of our party, I was told two things. The first thing I was told is that, you have a great future. My answer was, well, that's good news, because this election's in the future. The second thing I was told is that we need someone that can win. And that's a start. First of all, I disagree from just pure political calculus. But think about what that means. What does that statement betray? What that statement betrays is a thought process that conservatives cannot win. That somehow the only way Republican conservatives can get elected is by hiding their principles or silencing them. That's what that statement means. That statement means that the only way that we think we can win elections is by denying our principles or having none at all. The only way we think we can win is by being all things to all people. That's what that statement betrays. And I'm telling you, that's not true. And even if it were, it wouldn't be right. But it isn't true. The fact of the matter is that what Americans are looking for are people, not people they agree with 100% of the time, people who know what they stand for and will explain it to you in the clearest terms possible. People that will give the same speech in front of different audiences, not give two answers to the same question on the same day in two different cities. That's what the people of America need, and more importantly,